Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
All right, we're back again. I had to do a wardrobe change last time because Tyler was telling me I'm not allowed to wear a cutoff T-shirt. So now I've got a full sleeve T-shirt on.
Intimidating.
Good. Yeah, right. I don't know about that. Low bar. So Alec jumped on us today, and he fluffed our feathers and told us that we're his favorite podcast. So now we're starting this thing off on the right foot. We're very excited that he has such a low bar of opinion of us and how great we are. So Alec, thank you for hopping on with us and spending about an hour and telling your story. So give me your 15-second elevator pitch of who you are, where you're at, what you're doing.
Yeah. All right. So I work for the Milwaukee Fire Department, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been on the job for 5 years, 3 of that in Milwaukee, 2 of that in the suburb. I've always had an interest in real estate investing. You know, I bought a duplex in 2020, fixed it up, spent a lot of time and effort into that, did some land investing stuff in like 2019. And bringing today, like about 7-8 months ago, we had basically a new class came out. All the overtime dried up at our job. So last year I was pounding the overtime. Then I had all this extra time. So I just went full bore into the land investing business and have been just trying to scale that business up for the last 8 months now.
So you started investing for the most part this year. And for the past 5 years is when you've been doing the firefighter gig, 3 with a major city, 2 with the suburb before that. Yep. Did you do anything before that even?
You know, just the typical career to a fire department that a lot of, part-time departments, private ambulance, went to college, got a degree, all that sort of stuff.
What'd you go to college and get a degree in? Don't say basket weaving.
Pretty much kinesiology, which is exercise science. So a lot of the people who do that do go on to physical therapy.
I was actually doing the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I came from, a family background that you're kind of a loser if you don't go to college, no matter what, right? Like even if you don't plan on using it, just go to college, get a degree. Because I always knew, ever since I was like 14, 15 years old, I wanted to be a fireman. That's all I ever wanted to do. There really was no other choice for me, but I just kind of grew up in that environment, was really pushed to go to college. I had a great time, but it probably wasn't the most efficient use of my time. But I met my wife, and
I call that a win. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. This is just your opinion. So everybody has their own opinion on it. Do you think that college is worth the cost now to pursue your goals in your future?
No, I guess it depends. But I would say probably for what most people are doing, no. But like my wife, she just went back to school to become a nurse. It was a 2-year program. And it was only it's only like $1,500, $2,000 a semester for her to get her associates in nursing. It's not even that bad. So for something like that, yeah, I could definitely see doing it. But I would say, I don't know, just my experience, it was kind of a joke, to be honest. all the like you're taught by these TAs that just went to school like a year before you did, and they're getting there. Like it's just kind of. I wasn't a big fan of it. I wasn't too impressed, but maybe if you're going for engineering or something like that, I could see it being worth it. But I think, and it seems to be the general consensus on the job too. Like most people I don't hear a lot of guys pushing their kids to go to college just for whatever. I think people are waking up to that now. I could be wrong, but
Tyler, what do you think about college education and where we're at now?
I agree with Alec. That's what I was. We just had somebody on before, and that's what I was kind of like alluding to too. Is I just think now with the cost and everything like that, I think college used to be much more rare, right? So then if you had a college degree, you stood out and made you more marketable. But now everybody is going to college. Just with the amount of debt that you incur and things like that, I don't get it. Like engineer, doctor, stuff like that, go for it. But me and Jacqueline are real open to the idea of like with our son, right? He seems very mechanical, very geared towards that. Like, let's explore that, maybe trade school, maybe apprenticeship. lead him in that direction. I think there's like other things that you can do now that are much more beneficial. Honestly, if they wanted to start a business right out of high school, I think he would probably learn a lot more about life than going to college at this point. And I wouldn't mind taking the money that you would pay for college and dedicating it to something like that.
100%.
So I've been looking at going back to college again. Like every 2 or 3 years, I look at going back, and I'm like, will the cost justify the degree for a piece of paper? And it's usually a piece of paper that's not going to get me any further in life, especially where I'm at now. Because if I go back and finish another bachelor's with I think 5 credits left, then will that piece of paper get me anywhere else? Like, is it going to get me another job when I retire? And is it worth it? No, because I think when I look back at it, it was like all the courses that were in that scope at the time that were now electives, so they wouldn't actually be geared towards me getting that other degree. So I'm like, it's just not worth it to me at this point. But that being said, like Grant Cardone, I think, made a great point when he mentioned that if his kids go to college, he wants them to go to the Ivy League top premier school and network with the right people. Not go there to party, not there to go screw off. Go there to network and go there for the Ivy League piece of paper, because that will pay for itself. Outside of that, unless you're a very specific course-driven person and there's a career field for you, I think that it's a waste of time, energy, and money. I also say that I just spent a $2,000 plumbing bill where they came and put Fernco's in for a day's worth of labor. And I'm like, there's so much money more to be made in the trades right now. And as this thing's progressing. So did you do anything with the kinesiology degree? Did you like pursue anything?
Nope. I finished that up. And as I was going, like I would go to like normal college, I guess you would say, during the day. And then at night I did my fire one and my fire certs at night at the community college. And then I got my EMT over the summer. So after I did my 4-year degree, then I went into, fortunately or unfortunately, I went into paramedic school and got my paramedic. And then I got hired. When I was in paramedic school, I got hired on by a suburb.
At least 2 out of the 3 guys in this podcast are smart dudes. I'm just a knuckle dragger, apparently. I was a paramedic too.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse.
So how with your department, how do they operate? Is it like, are you required to promote? Like, how does yours look?
You're not required. Yeah, like around here where I'm at in the Milwaukee area, a lot of the suburbs at the time required you to have your paramedic to get hired, and the city of Milwaukee hadn't had a test in like 8 years. So I'm like, dude, I didn't know when they were going to hire again. I couldn't like hold my breath. So I was like, I'll just get my paramedic and get on a suburb. And if Milwaukee opens up, short answer, no. For the city of Milwaukee, you don't need your paramedic. You just need a high school diploma. So when they finally did open up and my number got called, I already had my paramedic. So they got me. So they did. But yeah, then we have what's called a cadet program. They take kids that are like 18 to 20 years old, run them through basically a 2-year apprenticeship program, and they get all those young kids. They make sure they get their paramedic program before they go into recruit class. So that's where a lot of our paramedic staffing comes from.
So this is me just being nosy. What does y'all's retirement look like?
It is 53, minimum age 53, and I think 24 years, 23 years. I'm not too sure. It's kind of a long ways off for me.
Okay.
But I believe that's what it is.
So yours is you have to do at least 23, 24, 25 years, whatever the number is, and you have to be a minimum age of 53 till you can retire. So ours is we're tier 3 is how we're broken out, is 25 years, no age requirement. So guys that were hired at like 18, 19, 20, they can retire at like 45, 46, 47.
The PD used to have that. The police used to have that. They got rid of it though. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much better.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear across the country like how everybody does their retirements. Do you know if your department, are you guys self-funded? Is the city funding you? How did you
so there's Milwaukee has had a lot of financial difficulties, I guess you could say, and we have our own pension. The city has its own pension, and now just recently they passed a big bill or act, I guess you could say, that all the new hires are going to go on the state pension, which is a much better run. But the city, I think it's like 70% funded somewhere. It was pretty good. I someone from the union was just talking about it, and they said it's in pretty good shape. So
I guess the reason I asked it because I've heard the woes of Milwaukee and that have been some rough patches, and I think about Detroit in that same realm.
Yeah.
And so if you always got to know who controls your money. So we are a self-funded pension. Some people the city funds the pension. So if the city goes bankrupt, so do the pensions. And then some people are state funded where the state controls the money. So it's very unrealistic that a state's going to file for bankruptcy, but I don't want to get into the politics of it. But Tyler, what about y'all's? Do you know what yours is, or the ones around you are? Yours is like PERS or something, right?
No, so yeah, we're separate. We're with Sarah, so we're on our own, just for LA County. But CalPERS is huge, and that's where most public safety employees are on our own PERS, from what I understand. Like Cal Fire and stuff like that, they would all be through PERS, I believe.
When you think about how blessed we are and how lucky we are, we have a pension that's probably going to pay us the rest of our life after 23, 24, 25 years, or retirement or disability or whatever it might be. Like, we should be covered the rest of our lives at some point to some degree.
Yeah, definitely a huge safety net.
So
sure.
Why did you, so 2023 is when you started looking into investing in real estate. What was the precursor that made you start looking into it, and why?
Oh, well, dude, I've been listening to, podcasts and reading books about it for probably since like 2018. I mean, for a long time. Yeah, I mean, for the last 6-7 years. I first heard about house wholesaling. So that's kind of I was like, oh, you can do that. You can make money doing that. Looked into it. I never really got around to doing much with it. I mean, I was in paramedic class at the time. And then I, getting on the job or whatever, did a cub year in the suburbs, or we call our probie year a cub year. So it was a probie, and you're just kind of busy. Then I got married. Then I bought a house. It was a fixer upper. So I spent so much freaking time of my own time fixing up this place. All the while listening to podcasts, reading books about real estate investing. It's just always been something that interested me. So yeah, I've been, what do they call it? Analysis by paralysis. I've been kind of just like learning about it, but not taking any action for quite a long time. And like I said, we had last calendar year, I was pounding the overtime, right? I worked like 35 overtimes last year, which was a lot for me. I mean, that's 35 days away from home, right? And I only made like 22 extra grand for the whole year. And overtime dried up, and I'm like, dude, it's just everything's so expensive now, getting married, starting a family. We're expecting our first baby. And
congratulations.
So, yeah, man, I was like, thank you, appreciate it.
When's he due?
March. We just found out March 30th. Due date.
Oh
March
man,
30th.
Congratulations! I love hearing that you guys just found out. And
you're
coming out to the 13 listeners that we have to let them know as well.
I appreciate it. So man, it was kind of it was January. I was listening to a podcast about this guy who runs this land investing business, and I had dabbled in this back in like 2018. I did this one-off thing. I sent out some postcards. I bought a piece of land in central Wisconsin for $2,000, and I sold it for $4,500. And I was like, dude, that's
nice.
That was a lot of money for me at the time. I was like, dude, that's sweet. And then
money for everybody.
Yeah, right. And then I bought another. I sent out another one in central Wisconsin, and the guy, he contacts me back. This is back in 2018, and he says, well, there's a house on it. So he had a mobile home that he basically built a house. So it didn't have a foundation, but he built a house around a mobile home. And I was like, all I had to pay for it was $1,500. That was like my spending money that I had. I said, well, I could pay you $1,500 for it. He's like, okay. And I ended up selling it for $20,000 on terms to a semi truck driver. So he paid me $2,000 a month until that was paid off. So that helped paid for my duplex that I ended up the down payment for my duplex. So I dabbled in it a little bit, but I never like went full bore, tried to like build systems or anything like that until January. And then, so
So leading up to January, I mean, it sounds like you kept busy by listening to podcasts, and then
Yeah.
you in the group you posted a couple times, like, what are guys
Mhm.
doing, this, that, and the other. So like, what made you pull that trigger? Like, what was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do this. Is this just a low barrier of entry or what?
A big thing, it is sort of a low barrier. This field, a land investing field, it is a low barrier. Like I said, overtime dried up. I was just sick of working on. Like I just spent so much time working on my house all day, every day. I'm like, dude, there's got to be, replumbing, bathrooms, kitchens, all that stuff. I was like, dude, there's got to be a better And at the end of the day, like, what is this house going to cash flow? $200-300 or something like that a month? Actually, when I move out, it should cash flow pretty good. But needless to say, I was like, there's got to be a better way to speed this process up. And I knew about I had a proof of concept of the land investing method that I had done, basically land flipping. And so I said, screw it, man, I'm just going to go full bore. And I got a zero, probably not the wisest thing to do. I got a 0% business credit card. It was like, they gave me like a $40,000 limit right away. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
And yeah, because I had an LLC set up from the little things I did in the past. So I got a business credit card for that. And I just started sending out direct mail. And yeah, got a deal back. This one was in North Carolina. Bought it for 14 and we sold it for 24. So I was like 10K. I was like, okay, sweet. I could pay off my credit card bill and then I had some money to play with. And then I've just been trying to compound that ever since.
All right. So you sent out a direct mailer. How did you pick the list to choose from to send your direct mailers to? And who'd you use?
So it's kind of in this field, it's less of a science and more of an art form. There is a science involved too. The main thing you're looking for is demand. So you look at certain markets. So for the properties that I look for are priced from like $25,000 to $175,000. Vacant land, no houses, $25,000, $175,000. And you find a market that has those selling at a good rate. So this is called like a sell-through rate. I don't know if like in housing you guys look at that at all for flipping, but basically, is there more properties sold in the last 12 months than that are currently for sale? So is that inventory moving? So I'm looking for markets where that's happening in that price range. So there's a few different websites, land.com, landwatch you can use to get a good idea. And then I'll actually go into Redfin and draw kind of a custom perimeter around certain areas and see what's going on in different markets. And that's kind of how you pick markets. And at the end of the day, it is kind of a crapshoot. You just never know, but you do try to get a good idea. At least there are people buying property in this area, because that's the thing with land is it can sit for if you buy land literally out in the middle of nowhere, you may got it for a great deal, but it'll be really hard to find a buyer for it. That's the hardest part about this business is finding a buyer. So,
it's funny. I had one of the, I got sent to do WMD training down in Anniston, Alabama, and I made friends with a couple of guys who are border dudes. And every once in a while, I'll find a property, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what do you think about this?" It's like, 96 acres on the Rio Grande River, and he's like, "You are definitely going to have coyotes bringing people across that river into your land." He's like, absolutely don't do that. That's not the piece of land that you want." And I thought it was kind of interesting. There's a company in Scotland who bought a house who sells off 1 foot acre, or I'm sorry, 1 foot by 1 foot plots of land. So when me, Tyler, and Mike first started this whole endeavor, I bought Tyler and Mike 1 foot plots of land, 1 square foot, so we could all be land barons in Scotland. Or be laird.
I've heard you talk about that before. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I was like, that is one of the most lucrative businesses I've ever heard. And I think it was like 20 or 30 or $40 or whatever the number was. And it was like, if he gets a couple thousand people to buy a 1 square foot of land in his 200-300 acres, then he's going to have money coming in. And it's probably like a bog with like marsh, like you can't get to it because you have to wear your wellies to get over to it. It's just, yeah, that's one of the most lucrative things. But it's nice to hear that other people, I think Daniel Brown, we had him on here on one of the first podcasts. He does land flipping in Texas. And it's nice to hear that you're doing it too. So, and then we just had somebody on the other day who was also doing it, Tyler. Who was that? Tyler's got a lag.
I think the whitetail property guy.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. It was Dustin Prevo. That's right. Thank you.
Yep.
Was that aired already? Did you already listen to that?
No, you posted something with his picture, and I had seen him obviously because it piques my interest when I see something with land. He's in Pennsylvania. I saw. Yeah, so I just saw you put. I think you made a post on Facebook about it.
That's right. You're right. Thank you. I can't remember yesterday. You'll have the same thing in a couple of months. You'll be in the same shoes as me, dude. I went from having to be able to focus on like 5 different things at once to having a hard time focusing on one thing, and I can't remember yesterday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Me too. Me too. So how did you find the list? Did you pull it off of a list source?
We use Data Tree. It's kind of like props. Prop Stream, I think, is a little more popular, but it's called Data Tree. So it's public record data. So you can draw a perimeter around a map, or you could select a county. You can target out of state, out of county owners, all that stuff. But I just make sure that it's a vacant piece of land. I typically target 5 to 40 acre parcels.
Okay.
And then I'll mail that list.
All right. I'm writing the Data Tree down one. That's a new one for me. I'll have to add that to the.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Data Tree, and then I actually just switched to it's called Land Vision. It's unlimited data, so it's a little bit higher upfront cost. I had to pay like $4,000 for a license for the year, but it's unlimited data. So like you could pull 20,000 records a month, which is my goal, is to start pulling 20,000 records a month. Whereas Data Tree, I think it was like 5 cents a record in the plan I had. So I just got it the other day. I'm still testing it out.
So $4,000 like that's a big number to a lot of people. I'm sure it was a big number to you before you started this, but it sounds to me, and I could be wrong, it sounds to me like you know that you can make that money back on one deal more than likely. Yeah,
like because I don't do the greatest job, but I try to track my KPIs. And right now I'm at about 3,000 to 4,000 letters per deal. It seems to be the going rate. And then same thing with I do texting as well. Texting is about the same rate, about 4,000 texts per deal. So I know as long as I'm picking good markets, it seems to be, and it's funny, like it seems to be the consensus. I'm in, I guess you could call it like a master, or it's a coaching group that has like a Discord server that we talk back and forth. That seems to be the rule of thumb across everywhere, is 3,000 to 4,000 mailers per deal.
Tyler, looks like he wants to jump in.
So have you tracked, you said you track your KPIs. Is it recording or no? Or is it, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
There's a gnarly delay. So you said that 3,000 to 4,000 pieces per deal. How much does that cost you? Do you know, have you calculated what it costs you as far as how many, that 3,000 to 4,000, what's the cost for 3,000 to 4,000 mailers?
Yeah, so I'm at about 55. My cost per mailer is about 55 cents per letter. So just the letter cost. So I mean, if I send out 4,000, it's about what, 25. Math isn't my strong suit, but it's about $2,500 per deal.
Okay.
And we try to aim for a gross profit of at least 10. I think my average right now is 20. But it's not like super even. Like I've gone a couple months with no deals, and then I'm just spending a bunch of marketing with no. So it's kind of like a leap of faith. Like you just got to trust the process, keep sending out marketing, and hope that eventually it comes back in.
Yeah, and so if you're operating at a 5x, that creates a lot of confidence too, and you're able to plan. Hey, as long as I consistently mail, I get a 5x on my money. I mean, that's phenomenal. Do that all day long, and you can scale that too, to whatever you want to do. If you want to go to 8,000 pieces, then you should net X amount of deals, and you know that you can increase that spending. You seem pretty disciplined on the money that you are making. Are you setting aside a certain percentage for marketing?
Yeah. So I had to,
or no?
Basically, I'm not really taking any. I had to take some. My wife got in a wrecked her car, so I had to buy her a new car. So I'd take a little bit of cash out for that. But other than that, it's just all trying to keep growing the business. All towards marketing is the major cost. I do have 2 VAs working for me as well in the Philippines.
Okay.
That are just, either following up with leads or doing texting.
Okay, and then so you send out the mail comes in. Where does that number go to? Directly to you or to one of the VAs?
So we actually have a call center set up. It's called Pat Live. So the call center,
Nice. Okay.
yeah, the call center runs them through a list of questions. So when we get a lead coming in from direct mail, they're a lot more higher quality leads. Usually they're a little more motivated. And we send neutral letter. A lot of people in this business will send blind offers. They'll literally look at what parcels are going for, and they'll just say, "Hey, I'll pay you $5,000 for your property," and they get deals that way too. But since I have a VA that's working for me, I'm able to send out neutral letters because I feel like you're going to pass up some of those deals. But anyways, yeah, the call center comes in. It's a Google form. They fill out a Google form, and then when they fill out that form, it gets pushed to the CRM that we use as a new lead.
Okay, and then on the new lead, do you call those back or do your VAs call them back?
I have my VA calling them back right now. So she's basically in charge of all the acquisitions. She does most of the legwork. She gives them a call. She'll comp the property, and she comes up with the offer, and then she'll make the offer.
Awesome. Okay, so that's a good front end system for sure. And then once the offer is made, do you have to? I mean, obviously, are you signing? Is she signing the deals? Does she have authority to sign?
I just have a contract that's like a PDF that has my signature on it, and then we send that through PandaDoc.
Okay.
Yeah, we send it through email. If they need it mailed, we send it through mail. I got one that I need to mail today because he doesn't have an email. But typically we just try to do that all via email.
That's cool.
So today you're doing snail mail with this guy for the contract?
Yeah, the one today. Yeah, it's actually a funny story. It's a lot in an HOA in Western North Carolina. There's a ton of HOAs out there, and he's selling it to me for $1. So it's and it's not because what happens out there, they get these HOA fees. It's $300 a month. And he's so sick of paying it. And initially we were going to pay like $4,000 for the lot. And then I saw the HOA, I said, that's going to be tough to move. Then he's like, well, I'll just give it to you. So I talked to some of my buddies in the business, and they said, yeah, I've gotten deals like that. Said you could probably move it on terms. They said pretty easy. They looked at the property. They're like, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to sell it, seller financing, I don't know, $99 down and pay me a couple $100 a month. And I feel like I should be able to move it pretty quick.
So at $300 a month for HOA, I mean, you're $3,600 a year. Like, do you think that's going to be lucrative?
Well, so if you sell it on a note, they would be paying that. So it's in a golf course community. So I'd have to find a buyer that's interested in it. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice for me, honestly. I'm not too thrilled about it, but it's in my risk tolerance. So I'm kind of rolling the dice on this property. Okay. We'll see if it pans out. I mean, it's literally $1. There are similar lots that have sold for like around 10 to 12K in that area. It's just about finding, for these HOAs, it's just about finding the right buyer. So somebody because if it's unrestricted, it's so easy to find a buyer. If somebody can put a tiny home on there, mobile home, whatever, like it's so much easier to find a buyer. When you get these HOAs, minimum square footage build, all that other stuff, you just it's a little bit more challenging. But I mean, even if I have a hold time of 6 months, then that's $1,800 all in. I'm not even using a title company. He's literally just signing the deed over to me, and I'm going to send it into the county. So
sounds like he's probably tired of losing money. I got a buddy of mine at work. We talk about his property. He bought beautiful $100+ lot in Wyoming, and the HOA has rules of the minimum square foot house that can be built, the design, the style, the colors. So he's like, it has to be a minimum. I think it's like 2,000.
Oh wow, that's pretty big.
So between land and house, we enter over $1 million for the build cost out there. Yeah, and he's like, I'm not building $1 million house, and I didn't know that going into this with the documents that they had available. So he's like, now I got to get rid of this, and hopefully I break even. So he's gonna take a loss with the amount of money that he put into the down payment and holding in the HOA, but he's going to he's going to stop. He's going to basically plug a hole in the slow leak.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of properties out there like that, and it's honestly I'm not a fan. I'm trying to get better at saying no to deals. Deals that I don't really love. I gotta like learn to say no, even though there may be money to be made.
Right.
It's probably going to be a pain in the ass. Like this deal, I should have avoided it. But I'm trying to build up a seller finance portfolio because a lot of people in this space do that, and that's really powerful because you could sell them on notes that are like 8 to 10 years. I have another one in a similar community. I have listed for a seller financing terms that hopefully it'll sell for. You get the down payment, and then I'll have basically payments of $300 per month coming in for the next 8 years. If it goes according to plan, if I'm able to sell it. So yeah, I just think if I could build up a portfolio of those recurring revenue, and then actually down the line, some people build up these portfolios and they're able to leverage it and they're able to borrow against it and use that capital to purchase more property.
So $300 a month. So $3,600 a year is what you would basically get off of that property.
Yep.
So we'll say the average fire department salary is $65,000 a year. Times, let's see, I think we get taxed right around 24%, 21%. We'll just say 80%. Divided by 12. If you can make $4,333 a month, it'll cover the average firefighter salary in the U.S. Right. So we'll say divided by 300. That's 14 deals. So if you can get 14 deals to pay you $300, it's the same as replacing your salary. And that's like I think Thomas O'Brien, we talk about this fairly often. Is like, what's it going to take to replace my salary? And 14 deals for the rest of your life. That's an obtainable goal. It might not take a month or a year. It might take like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Probably not. But if you're as diligent as you're being with this mastermind and sending out the letters and knowing the ins and outs of your niche, like 14 is, you can do that in a year or two if you really batten down the hatches and go after it. Right.
Yeah. The problem is they're only typically 8 to 10 years. So you do kind of have to, but that's plenty of time to just keep the ball rolling. You know what I mean? You'd have plenty of time to get more deals in the pipeline. So,
and once you get that momentum rolling, like you start knowing, getting to bigger deals, learning more stuff, making more money. I love hearing this with guys, because the podcast we just had, like if you get hurt or if you don't take the COVID shot and you get fired or something happens to you and you don't have a way to replace the income, you're screwed. Like you're sitting there not getting a paycheck and there's nothing you can do about it. So having more than one source of income is fantastic. I love hearing that you just getting started 8 months ago in January of this year, and you're already starting to get deals rolling in and investing. So my hat's off to you.
Yeah. It was, you guys had Ian Horowitz on I think not too long ago, but man, that hit home because, he worked for Baltimore, I think.
Yep.
And Milwaukee's kind of going through a lot of the same stuff, shutting down houses. And it just really hit, and this was kind of before, and I mean, maybe that was one of the catalysts too that made me, hey, I got to get going on this, because you just don't know. I mean, you hear stories all the time of the city leaving guys or girls out to dry that get injured on the job or something happens, and you hurt somebody's feelings and you get fired, and then you lose your, you're screwed out of your pension or at least 100% of your pension. You don't get everything that you probably should have gotten, and so yeah, it's definitely important, I think, to have multiple streams of income.
We've had two guys on the job. We've had two guys on the job from Baltimore, and so Baltimore had to sue the city because they were 20-year pensions, and they changed it to 25-year pensions. So they're like, I'm not staying for another 12, 13, 15 years. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. Like, can you make the same money doing something else, like selling notes or mortgages or flipping houses or flipping land, and make the same amount of money with less risk? And that's exactly what the guys did.
Yeah.
So sorry, I have somebody picking up a broken dishwasher I posted about in the Facebook group. The painters wash their brushes in the sink and then turn the garbage disposal on, and that paint backed up into the dishwasher, and then somebody ran the dishwasher and the heat baked the paint onto the bottom of the dishwasher. So that dishwasher was shot, and I had to replace it yesterday. And I got a guy picking it up for parts, so he's texting me. So apologies for that. It's just one of the things of landlording with land is that you don't have to worry about plumbing backups and dishwashers with paint and light bulbs.
Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can happen will happen.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're not doing the acquisitions, are you handling all the dispositions?
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now. That takes up a lot of my time. Market selection, getting the ad copy out, reviewing deals too. Like I still review all the deals. I'll call basically we try to get deals under contract. It's say phase 1 due diligence, just quick and dirty. Like, would we want to buy this property? Does it have road access? Is it in a floodplain? Is it in wetlands? No. Okay. If it has road access and it's not in flood zone, not in wetlands, yeah, make an offer. And then after that, we'll do a little bit more due diligence. So that I'm involved in that, like verifying utilities. We got a deal in New York State that I in contact with a local agent. He actually was an appraiser for like 30, 40 years. So he's like a rock star to deal with. He's exactly what I'm looking for. And he's going over the soil types and he's saying, hey, this is going to be tough to perk. So you're going to want to get a perk test before you buy it. So stuff like that takes the majority of my time.
It sounds like a lot of bandwidth and energy that you're not going to have in a couple of months.
I know, dude. I'm like, I got to scale and what is it? Elevate and delegate and elevate, or whatever that saying is. That's what I got to do. Find some good people to work with me.
I mean, it sounds like you're already starting to get like you already understand the players in the game and the rules of the game to start moving forward. And you started getting more tools in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been reading.
Do you want to do bigger deals? Do you want to do real estate with plumbing and lights?
Dude, once you're into it, like what I've done work on houses and I know how much work it is. And then once you get into land, man, it's just kind of easy, really. And then the value add with land is like entitlements or subdivisions is what I'd like to get into. And that's where you can make the big money. That's where you can get a 7-figure deal. You hear guys talk about. And you can even find deals for that on the MLS is what I hear, right? If you look at it and you look at, because the lower the lot size, right, the price per acre goes up. So if you can divide it into smaller lots, you can make a lot of money. And I know Texas is their laws, I think, are pretty lax for that. So a lot of their competition is pretty high. But I'd like to do it in Wisconsin, just in my backyard, because I think there's a lot of opportunity. But yeah, that's definitely I do. I mean, I still like the idea of owning rentals for the tax. Kind of a tax shelter and some more monthly cash
depreciations.
Yep. Yeah. And we still have, I'm in the Rust Belt. We still have areas where it's pretty easy to get a cash flowing property, especially if you could put 20% down. So yeah, that's definitely still on my radar, but I probably would hire a property management company.
I do that.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've listened to you and I could tell you're a handy guy. So it's like, I think there was like part of me that was like, no, I'm a man. I got to do this myself. And that I feel like it kind of held me back a lot. Like with this house that I'm in right now, I spent so much time doing stuff myself if I would have just focused on this land business, when I got a little bit momentum a few years ago, I could have probably scaled it to 10 times what it is right now and paid somebody to remodel all the bathrooms and the kitchens and whatnot. So
the hindsight's 2020. It also depends on what you're getting these things done for. It's like, my painter, I was talking to him. He's like, the average townhouse right now costs $8,500 to paint, and I'm like, well, if you have the exterior, interior, okay. So like 3-bed, 2-bath here, townhouse is going to go for right around $8,500 to paint, and I'm like, man, if it takes me 45 minutes to an hour, half hour to paint each room, like it doesn't make sense for me to hire that out. But the average person, we talked about this the last podcast, is if it takes you 2, 3, 4 hours to paint each room, then maybe it's not for you. Same thing for plumbing. If I can tear plumbing apart and put it back together in a half hour versus paying $2,000, then maybe that makes more sense. It depends what your capabilities and the time cost is for you. If you have the time and it's not drawing you to do something else, then great. But if you're willing to pay top dollar to have this stuff done, then if you have that kind of that money, then do it. So because their time is worth. Time is invaluable.
Right. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it all depends on where you're at in life. Like when you're
Yeah.
younger and you have more energy and more time and less things that are required for you to do somewhere else, then yeah, you're gonna have availability to go do it. But once, and this is, I mean, this is me being a new dad. Like he's gonna, I already know this. He's gonna take priority over everything else. Him and my wife and my dogs is because they're my family. So my time is more valuable than $2,000 worth of plumbing just to save a couple bucks. So it depends on the situation. Even
Right.
it's funny, I was texting Alex Carnathan, who we had on here a couple podcasts ago, and I was like, "Hey man, I've got a property up by you. I need 2 ceiling fans switched out to the nipple lights. I need the fence fixed, and I need something else done. Like, can I hire you to do it?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, no problem." So I'm like, I'd rather hire a friend to make some money who has the time and energy to get this done than to drive an hour each way, sit in traffic, burn the gas, go to the store, pick up the materials. Whereas he's right there, so it'd be easier for him, and he can do it whenever he wants.
Right.
So what's next for you? So we're 40 minutes into this thing. So what's your plan going into the next couple of months? Maybe pre-baby, post-baby. Like, what's your goals that you're working on?
Yeah, I do. I have a goal, and it sounds kind of crazy even saying it out loud, but I would like to have a 7-figure land flipping business within 4 years from when I started. So
Okay.
3 years in January. It's a big goal. So that's kind of like my big goal, my stretch goal that I'm working towards. But near term, just continue to put the right people in the right seats, get better systems in my business. I'm reading that book Traction. I'm going through that and trying to implement it as far as like how I run the business, and just getting bigger deals, getting better deals, more deals under contract, and just continuing to scale the business, I guess.
So when I met with a buddy of mine, he's a big investor up in Philly, years and years and years ago, and he's like, every goal you have is attainable. It just depends on what you want to put in the work now to get it later. And I always talk about castles, and I post about castles and stupid stuff like that. If I sold all my real estate right now, I could buy a castle outright, and it's an attainable goal. It's realistic for me now, and I'm like, never in my mind would I think that I can purchase a castle, the castle of Aaron.
So let me ask you, like, how do you guys, or at least how do you? Because it's not really on my radar. A lot of people in this community, or in the mastermind or whatever, they're desperately trying to get out of their W-2 job. Whereas like, that's not really on my radar. I mean, if things get really bad and they start to cut even more rigs or whatever, maybe. But how do you guys process that? Are you like, are you guys trying to get out of firefighting or?
So I've got 5 years left till I retire, and
Okay.
there's no reason for me to leave now, because in 5 years I'm at a slower firehouse now.
Nice.
So I'm not getting beat up the way I was for a couple of years. I'm not working overtime like I was. I'm not doing standbys like I was for people. So for me, it's a little bit easier to say that.
Yeah.
But also, my medical insurance is covered for my family for life, like 60 or 70% of it. And then I'll get a pension for the rest of my life starting at 48 years old. So for me, it's important to have those to fall back on. And I enjoy going to work and I enjoy having those things there.
Yeah.
But I also like knowing that if something were to happen at work again, then I could fall back on real estate and I wouldn't be taking much of a hit. Tyler, he's in that boat right now. So I'll defer to him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the future holds right now. We're still in that process, so we'll see. But I think a lot. What's that?
I said I will ask Tyler and his kids in the back.
I think a lot of guys. Oh yeah, exactly. They're always. I have my nieces here, dogs in the background. It's always crazy. But for me, it's funny. Like I think a lot of guys that end up leaving early, they don't plan on it. It just becomes. It comes to a point where it no longer makes sense for them to be at work. Like they can't justify it anymore. And I think that's, like if you ask Ian and Dan, that was the same thing. I know Swaggerty, I feel like that was the same thing at his point, but there's other guys I know on my job that at a certain point, it just made sense for them to leave. And if I was still able to do the job, it's still pretty fun. I mean, I don't know if I would, be jumping at the opportunity to leave, but I don't know at that point. But it sounds like you said, like for me, if I was making 7 figures a year and still sacrificing 1/3 of my life to be at the fire station, is that more of a selfish thing for me as opposed to like the best use of my time with me and my family? And that's what I was always thinking is, if it gets to a point where financially I don't need to be there and it's just for me, then what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, how old are you, Alec? If you don't mind me asking.
29.
29. So like 29, you're still young. You got a whole career ahead
That's
of
young,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I was 29, I was still kicking indoors and beating my chest and saving babies and rah, rah, rah. So, I mean, you get 10, 15 years older than that, your view changes and your priorities change and things change. So for me, like if I had to stay, if I had your retirement and I had to stay till I was 53 years old, that means I'd do close to 30 years in the job. And I don't know if I would have that in me to do that time, because I don't have to do it. I have options. And that's the thing about real estate or investing in general. It could be stocks, bonds, notes, flipping cars, whatever your niche is. You have options. And when you have options, you're being told by somebody else what to do is less appealing. We'll say that. Plus, the people who are in charge sometimes are dumber than you are, so it's hard to deal with them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I still love it. Like I'm in the, I guess the correct way, in the inner city would be the correct way to say it. Busy company. I still love it. I mean, you do get your ass kicked and you come home and you're crabby sometimes. So that's a little tough, but I'm usually able to just drink enough caffeine and power through it. So.
Do you want to promote?
I don't know. That's I don't know is the short answer. I could see maybe wanting to be a boss someday. But not anywhere on my radar right now. No.
What's your schedule like out there in Milwaukee?
We do a 24/48 schedule, and then we have we call them paid off days sprinkled in through there. We don't get many days off compared to some other departments around here. I think I get like a total of 12 per year. So I think like 8 or 10 years ago, we had twice that many, and our union was a big debacle. We lost we basically lost half of our vacation days. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of stings. There is talk about going to a 1 on 3 off.
That's what we do.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
How do you like that? Dude,
highly recommend it.
That sounds so awesome. The union said that's their top priority right now, and our chief is behind that as well, and he's a pretty good politician. So you know how it is, though. It could be just a total pipe dream and never happen, but I'm definitely hoping for that, because that sounds amazing. Because you make one trade, you get a week off.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if you work a 48-hour shift, or you're not supposed to work 48, but if you work, we'll say 36 and then space and then 12 more, then you get like 6.5 days off or 7 days off. And it makes a big difference, especially if you're if you can trade with somebody at a slower house where you can just like kind of go to work and just run a couple calls and have fun versus like back to back calls.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. You guys aren't allowed to work a 48.
They don't want you working more than 48 in a row.
Wow, that's crazy.
Nope, they don't want you working more than 36 in a row.
No.
So they frown upon a 48. Does it happen once in a while? Yes. Is it supposed to? Absolutely not.
We get we call it mandated. We get mandated all the time to work 48 hours. So that's
they tried to mando me on the 4th of July. So on the 4th of the night of the 4th of July, well, let's say this. On the 2nd, my wife started having contractions. On the 4th of July, they tried to mandatory me to come back to work, and my son was born that night. And I was like, I can tell you, I'll be AWOL, I'll be on annual leave, or I'll be on emergency leave. Either way, I'm not coming in. There's no way. And they were like, oh, okay, you have a good enough excuse. So I'm like, yeah, I think it's a pretty good excuse. My wife's in labor.
Yeah.
So
that's nuts.
If you could, you're only 29 years old. If you can go back and give your younger self some advice, this could be like college age Alec. This could be like 6 years ago when you had analysis paralysis. Like, what advice would you give your younger self?
6 years ago, well, invest in Bitcoin. Invest in Bitcoin. But yeah, just like just start doing it, man. Like whatever, even if I would have gone the house wholesaling thing, I mean, I know it's super competitive now. But I would say, yeah, start this land business thing. There's not as much competition as in the house world. I think there's a lot of opportunity still in it, and just stay focused on that one thing and continue the fire department thing. Because it's not like I love my job. I love going to work. I wouldn't want to do anything else. So I would say just continue trying to get on the fire department, invest in Bitcoin, and focus on one real estate investment strategy, and just try to systematize that, and scale and grow.
Do you think that that this is personal? This is your own personal opinion. Do you think once you master or get good at one aspect of investing, that you should then start transitioning into learning other ones, or do them concurrently? Or what do you think?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I think like the way I look at this business is it's like a cash play, just to get cash and then to put into it's kind of a hot thing right now, self-storage, but that seems sweet. Like if I could get enough cash and enough traction in doing this, right, to like venture into that more passive strategy. I don't even know how passive that is, but it just seems like a great business. We had a run the other day in a self-storage. It's a dumb EMS run. It was in a self-storage facility for one of the workers. And I started talking to the guy that was working there. I was like, how many storage places are in here? And he's like, I don't know, 500 or something. And I was like, how much do you charge per month for them? And he's like $80 to $100. I was like, I started doing the numbers in my head. And the guys I work with were making fun of me. They're like, oh, you want to buy one of these now, don't you? And I was like, dude, that's crazy, the numbers. So that would definitely be on my radar, is something like that in the future, and buy and hold rentals too.
That's one of the things I've been looking at doing for a while, is storage unit facilities. And we've talked about this before, is that I can't justify some of the costs of some of these storage unit facilities because I can't see the demand being there in a declining or stagnant economy. And me and Tyler have talked about this as well. And I see some of the ones that the utilities are so small that they're not cash flowing after dealing with some of the headaches, which could be damage to the lights, damage to the doors, to the fence, locks, whatever it might be. Like, it's just like for me, real estate investing in single family houses, my minimum threshold net is $400 a month. If I'm not making net $400 a month, I don't want to look at the deal. It just doesn't make sense to me. Same thing for storage unit facilities. Like, I need a bottom net for it to make sense to me, because I don't see the benefits other than cost segregation or tax write-offs. So it's hard for me to rationalize the price of some of these storage unit facilities. And I think a lot of them are being underwritten incorrectly. I think the data that they provide you does not match the data that actually comes in. So like, their books don't match what they're telling you. Tyler, I want to get your opinion on that too, because him and I just joined Ian Hurwitz's mastermind group for storage unit facilities. He's got a delay.
Yeah.
About the storage. Yeah, I got a gnarly delay today, guys. I'm sorry. I like storage. I think I'm when you were mentioning that for the downturn, I know in the last market downturn, I feel like storage was still a viable asset. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of price compression, and I think then deals are going to be really good. So I think in the next couple of years, if things do happen in the commercial space, I think there's going to be some really good deals that be had for storage. And I think then a lot of those numbers will make sense. If you can't get commercial banks to finance, and you have private funding, or if you have cash, I think there's going to be some good deals to pick up.
Good insight. Alec, have you thought about developing your own land that you're acquiring at all?
Yeah, it's definitely in the back of my mind, especially if I did something local, like around the area that I live. But yeah, I mean, that's like, it's all just, just ideas, right? That don't really have much behind them. But yeah, I mean, I thought about that, right? Like, if I could get a piece of property and zone it commercial and put a self-storage unit on there, I definitely thought about that. Even for like building out, because housing is so expensive right now. If I could find land because we shoot for 50% of market value, try to get it wrapped up 50% of market value. So if I get cheap land here, that would cut down the cost on getting a house outside the city. Because now that I'm having kids, I don't really want to send them to the city schools and all that. So I'm looking to get out of the city. So yeah, it's definitely something I thought about.
So I got two things. So I think it was John Farling posted about this, is that for him to do a facility on this piece of property, they wanted him to raise the land like 7 feet above sea level to put an affixed building on there. So what he did was he put, I think it's called Boxable. Jesse Smith is the one who's the marketer for it. He put Boxable units on there that are not affixed to the land. They're just kind of like set it and forget it. So he didn't have to follow that raise the 7 feet above sea level requirement that the city was telling him he had to do. It's just a workaround. And I thought that was pretty ingenious for him to make it work. And he's gonna cash flow more because he didn't have to do land work and dirt work on the property. And the other story I was going to tell is that years ago, this is probably 3 years ago now, I was super excited to be part of a deal where this builder had the land and he wanted to partner. The builder had the land. He went to the bank. The bank wouldn't give him money because he filed bankruptcy a couple of years ago. So he had to find partners that were finance partners and have experience with real estate. That was me and my buddy Scott. And he ended up lying about his experience as a builder, and the deal fell apart because he had lied about his experience, and we wouldn't move forward. And when the bank found out about it, they cut ties with him as well. So if you ever do decide to get land and do building, just make sure you know the guy you're getting in bed with for the builder or the development of it.
Okay. Yeah.
This is advice for everybody. Like if you're going to partner with somebody, know what their finances and their background and their true experience actually looks like, because it can get to be a slippery slope when they have a lot of promises but don't have a lot of solidified deals to back it up. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so let's see. Last questions. If I want to switch it up a little bit, let's talk about kids, because we just had Joel on here. He's got a kid that's 4 weeks older than mine. Yours is going to be a couple months younger than mine. If you could teach your kid about anything after 18 years old, what are you going to try to focus on?
Teach them anything after, like, once they're 18 years old.
Yeah, like so you tell them, like, once you turn 18, I'm going to teach you about this, this, and this. Now it could be like education, schooling. It could be craftsmanship. It could be love life. It could be making smart decisions. It could be investing. Like, what are your focuses going to be about teaching your future kids?
First and foremost, I think, if I don't know, I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm thinking if it's a boy, right, how to be a good man, how to be a good husband, good father. I'm a Christian, right? So I'd hope that he would have a faith in God. Those would be probably at the forefront. Even if it was a girl, right, how to be a good woman, all that stuff. But if, like, as far as like practical, more like entrepreneurial stuff, I think I used to think that mindset stuff was kind of dumb, right? Like, whatever. But there is something about, like, even being in this mastermind and being around people who are doing these crazy numbers, it does change your perspective. And I think for the better, right? So get out of that, like, oh, I'm making $45 an hour on overtime, right? Well, like, I feel like you're a smart guy. I was just telling this young guy he's got less than a year on. I was like, you're worth more than, you're a smart kid. You could make more than $30-40 an hour if you put your mind to it on your off time. So just kind of that mindset shift of what your time's worth, kind of like what you're talking about earlier, and push them towards, books like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, all that other stuff to kind of change their mindset, that it is, if you put your mind to it, like, getting that money problem figured out isn't as big. I think it's still a lot of hard work, but it's not as, like, insolvable, I think, that a lot of people make it out to be. I don't know. It's top of my head.
I thought it was a great answer. I think that was a fantastic, well thought out, spur of the moment answer. So good. I saw these are things in the back of my head since I became a father, and Tyler kind of drops these nuggets on me once in a while. So does Mike. And a lot of my friends are kind of like, this is something to think about. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but think about this for the future. Think about this action. I think Ty said that by the time the kid is 12 years old, he'd have spent 75% of the total life with you. And from 12 years old to the end of your life, there's another 25% that you can spend with them. So spend as much time with them in the forefront and don't be an absentee person. The availability of money coming in on the side means that you don't have to work as hard working overtime being away. So you don't have to be a absentee father. You can actually be there with them and spend time with them. So that to me is a big thing now. It's not something I really thought about years ago, but now it's on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything we missed that you want to talk about or touch on or hit on?
Not much. I would just say if there's anybody listening that's looking to get into something that's not a lot of overhead and you're tired of pounding out the overtimes, look into the land flipping business. There's a ton of resources out there on YouTube. A guy named Clint Turner, he has a great channel that goes into it. I mean, he just released his course for free. He used to charge $2,000 for it. Now it's for free. So I mean, it's a very accessible field, and I don't think it's as competitive. I've heard people say it's like how house wholesaling was in the 90s. So if anybody's looking for some opportunity, I think it's a good thing to look into.
Good. See, passing on information already. You're going to be like, you're like the guys that are in the group, like the student becomes the teacher. You laugh, man, but like there's some guys in the group who are like, I go to them for advice now, like, hey man, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, you do this and this. And like, dude, you can't take on everything. So like bring guys that are going to come have your back and teach you too. That's what the group's about.
I don't want to make it seem like I'm still like stressed. Like I don't have it. I'm still stressed. I got to get some more deals coming in. Like I am definitely not like, I don't have it figured out. I'm definitely a work in progress. So I feel like something like when I listen to a podcast, I think like the guy's got it all figured out. That's definitely not me. I'm still in the beginning stages. I'm still like stressed about, I got to get some more money coming in. So I'm still working on it.
Hey man, we're all work in progress. Some people can just fake it till they make it a little bit better than us.
Right.
Tyler, you got anything else for us, man, before we start wrapping this thing up?
No, it's been a great interview. Sorry, I feel like I've been watching a kung fu movie over here with my my internet delay. But Alec, it's been super. It's been cool listening, and I would say that I'm impressed with how you've built your systems out so far. I would have probably guessed that you had either read Traction or read it at some point. So I think the sky's the limit with all that. I think if people have questions, they need to reach out in the group in regards to land. I notice, and I keep saying this to Aaron, the conversations are changing in our group. They're becoming higher and higher level, and people are starting to do stuff. And if we all lean into that, I think everybody's going to rise. I just noticed it in the last couple months that conversations are getting much more detailed. The questions are getting much more detailed, and the advice in turn is getting better and better. And I think it's proof of that. So awesome job. Very impressive. If we can help you out, let us know. And that's it, man. Thanks for hopping on today.
Absolutely. No, thanks for the opportunity. Like I said, I was starstruck. This show is my favorite podcast by far. Dude, I'm not even. It's my two worlds: firefighting, real estate investing.
I'm blushing, bro. Hey, the book Traction. Who's that by? Is that Kristen Hansen or is that Gino Wickman? Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna put Gino Wickman in the group. Okay. Yep. All right, you guys are rock stars. Thanks for spending an hour with us, and guys, we'll talk to you, or hopefully you'll listen to us, all 13 of you, next week with the next podcast. But Alec, if you guys have questions, reach out to him. He sounds like he's on the road to a millionaire in 5 years or less. I bet.
We'll see. Hopefully.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.